Hello everybody, how are you? We're back again with another Omaha video, and this one is going to be about the current century, the 2000s, otherwise known as the 21st century. And it's a follow-on video from our video about the 1800s in Omaha, the 1900s in Omaha, and here we are, up to date. Now from here we'll do other videos. We're going to talk to more people on the streets in Omaha. We'll have more interviews. We're going to talk more about the culture of Omaha, the cultural institutions, music, dance, and then of course the sporting life, which is such an important part of Omaha and it has deep roots in the city. But meanwhile, let's just talk about what's going on in general in the 21st century, the current time in this great town. And of course, the one thing that sticks out is the unbelievable development and explosion of building of both downtown, north downtown, and all around the city. And specifically, let's look at some of the unique constructions that are making this city so unique and such a leader in architecture, building techniques, construction, and so on. So one of the interesting ones is the First National Boot, which is a 40-story cowboy boot right downtown. The top of the boot, of course, is sealed off. There's a heliport at the top, but it doesn't mean that it's empty inside. You've got offices, condominiums, and has won awards for one of the more creative architectural designs in the last 25 years in the United States. Now, the First National Boot, while they wanted to make it as tall as 80 stories, the feeling was that 40 was plenty for the size of a market that Omaha. Whereas if it was, let's say, a little bit bigger city, perhaps 80 stories would have been more appropriate, but 40 is plenty. Now, just north of downtown is what they call the North Downtown. And of course, the really interesting building there is the Century Stetson. Now, the Century Stetson is a low-profile Stetson hat that stretches 3 football fields wide right in the center of the North Downtown area. And of course, it focuses more on the culture. It has movie theaters. It has regular theaters, stages for touring stage shows like Shen Yun or whatever. And then it also has a 14,000 seat stadium, which is mostly for monster truck shows, because in Omaha, you've got monster truck shows. From Thursday through Sunday, you're going to have 40 or 50 of them in the city, and they really just needed a center where they could focus on monster truck shows. Now, occasionally they'll have a Genesis concert in there, or Lady Gaga, or whoever. But for the most part, it's monster trucks. Now, sometimes they don't schedule it properly, and they have to stage a Lady Gaga show while the monster truck show is going on. Of course, they have to get permission from the artist. But in the case of Lady Gaga, she was all for it, and she just climbed in the back of one of the trucks and sang while they were driving those monster trucks over piles of dirt and empty cars and dead bodies steam and smoke coming out of the smokestacks there. And she just held on for dear life and sang her songs with no problem, and the fans loved it. Now, throughout the city, you have a lot more shopping options. So, for example, in downtown and midtown, you have got new shopping centers. Downtown, you've got the Omaha Looking Forward Mall, which is interesting because it's completely outdoors. If you have ever been in Omaha in January, you might think that was not a good decision to make that an outdoor mall, but they figure for the months of, say, April through September, they're going to have a superior shopping experience for everyone in town, and that has proven to be the case. It's filled. Now, in the winter, what they do is they'll issue you a snow shovel and ask you to shovel part of the snow as you're walking to your store, walking to your shop of choice. Now, on the escalators, what they'll suggest you do is take one of the brooms that they usually use for the Olympic curling team and they place them in a trash can next to the escalator, and they'll just ask that you brush off the step that you're on, and that helps everybody get a clean step. But of course, like I said, it's an outdoor mall. Depends on if there's a storm. Now, if there's a storm, they're going to suggest that you sweep off 2, maybe 3 steps, and that way, if everybody does that, everybody in Omaha has a clean escalator step in that particular mall. Now, in the kind of over by the university, you're going to see a shopping experience that's a little bit unique, because what's happening is textbooks, despite the expansion of digital options, still professors are insisting that students buy traditional paper textbooks, and those can be upward of $200-300 for a textbook. So what they've done is they have asked the city to build a shopping center near the university, where part of the proceeds of each sale goes to help students buy textbooks. So, for example, let's say you were to buy a pair of jeans, a cowboy shirt, a cowboy hat, and boots, which would be a very typical outfit in Omaha. And let's say it comes to a couple $100, they're going to knock 10% off right off the top and take that money and funnel it over to the student union, which will then allocate it to the students in the university and help them purchase, give them a discount off of their textbooks, and take those funds and directly apply to their textbook purchase. So you're helping the economy, you're helping the future of Omaha, and in a way it's worked so well that the city is really thinking about expanding that idea to all of the shopping centers in the area, so that they can then apply funds for not only for students, but for various activities around the city. Like I mentioned, the curling team, the monster truck shows, which are really expensive. A lot of those trucks run on propane, people don't know. And the giant tires that they use in the monster truck shows, they're like 8, 9, 10 feet tall. And if you're a farm hand or a ranch hand or just some city slicker that likes to drive monster trucks, you may work as a manager at a warehouse or somewhere where you're doing, let's say, $50,000-$60,000 a year. Well, that's how much a monster truck tire costs. It's like $50,000. So you might need some help, and that's where the city is thinking about expanding that program, where they funneled funds from retail sales to help the students. They might expand it to help the monster truck shows, which are such an important part of the city's economy. And if the city were to knock back the monster truck shows from $400 or $500 a year back to, let's say, $375 or so, I mean, you're talking about a $4 or $5 billion drop in city coffers. So they're looking for ways to keep those trucks running. Now, in terms of the other buildings that are going on in the city of Omaha and in surrounding areas, let's talk a little bit about the residential options, because real estate is so expensive on the coast. And while it's not as high in Omaha and Des Moines and Akron and the Midwest, those Midwest cities, still it is expensive to rent an apartment for an average Omahan that's, let's say, working at a waitress job or something like that. And then in terms of buying a house, you still have a challenge with newlyweds that have a couple, 3 babies on the way. If it's a Catholic family, 9 or 10 babies. And, to put together the money to buy a house is still a challenge. So the city has come up with different options to help both renters and people trying to buy a house. And what they're trying to do is combine the two. So what they're doing is providing funds for young families and people that are new to home buying to purchase smaller homes, and they give them money to help with the down payment. And they also negotiate with the home builders to lower the price to accommodate this economic strata. And then what they'll do is, if it's a single family home, they'll open up the backyard to renters who then live in cardboard boxes and tents and different accommodations. Some people have purchased dog houses at the local home improvement stores or the pet stores, and they'll rent those out to students. And it may seem a little unusual for students to live in those conditions, But let's be honest, most students are have start drinking beer their first day of freshman year, and they don't stop until they graduate from the university or other higher education. So they don't even feel the cold when they're out there in the doghouse or in a tent. And of course, they can save tons of money and be able to afford books and be able to afford the crazy dances that they do. And they have these line dances now in Omaha. It's a big country music town, of course, and they have line dances with 4,000 or 5,000 people in each line dance, and those are just the instructors. And once they learn these line dances, they spread out throughout the city, and they have impromptu line dances teaching the residents of Omaha how to do the latest, so that, let's say, TMC or some other Hollywood tabloid-style news magazine were to suddenly land in the city and stop people on the street and ask them to do a line dance, the city didn't want to be caught flat-footed and have people stumbling over their own feet and making the city look bad. So with this program, everybody in the city is ready to get out there and boot scoot on the latest line dances, tip their hat with style, and fling their lady around the dance floor with panache. So that is really a lot of forward thinking by the city. Now, if this sounds radically different than how the city may have been handling things in the rootin' tootin' Wild West days, well, you are right on the money. Because now a lot of that is, ingrained into the city's character. It's still a Western town that relies on traditional values of hard work, pulling up your own bootstraps and getting to it, putting your nose to the grindstone and being rewarded for your work rather than being a layabout, lackadaisical bum. Okay, because that won't work. That won't fly in Omaha. But on the other hand, as you can see from the examples I've given in this video, the city is much more forward-looking, more modern in their approach to technology, and implementing ideas that they see in other parts of the world immediately into their hometown so that they can enjoy the benefits or at least test ideas before expanding them or discarding them. And in that fashion, they're constantly evolving, constantly growing, and constantly improving the way of life in Omaha. So there's nothing but blue skies and green grass ahead for the city because of that leadership and that vision. So look for better and more exciting things to come as they are today from Omaha. And that's a snapshot of how things are right now in the 21st century. And of course, that is from the year 2000 to the present day. So guys, come on back. We're going to have some fun interviews. That's really where we have the most fun. We have a lot of laughs talking to people in Omaha. We have interviewed Olga, so look for that video. That was a lot of fun. And then we're going to talk to some more people on the streets. And again, this is what separates my approach from these other history videos or travel and tourism videos, is that I get down into the nooks and crannies, the streets and avenues, and talk to the people about what's going on. I don't just run around with a production crew to the highfalutin restaurants and drink champagne and then I'm off on a plane. No, I talk to the people in the pubs, in the bars, in the streets, people that are passed out on the curb because they had too many shots of tequila. We want all of their opinions and all of their views to get the real skinny on what is going on. So come on back for that. And of course, guys, remember, this was all made up off the top of my head. So this is a parody channel if you're new. This is a parody video if you're new to the channel. So just keep in mind, don't use this material for your master's thesis because they'll just laugh at you. I just made it all up off the top of my head. Come on back.